Basketball Society.
Going on, everybody? It's Alex Fishbein back again with another Fish's Friday rant, and I got my webcam working. I don't know what happened last time, but it's working now, so we're good. As I said, back with another episode by way of Basketball Society. I did not have an Atlantic Files episode this week because this has been my finals week. I go to University of Pittsburgh, like I've said before in earlier episodes, so I've had a lot of work to do this week. Finally got pretty much all of them out of the way and had some time to bring this episode to you guys. So, today I want to talk about Rondo and the Kings. I want to talk about the Spurs. And I want to talk a little bit about D'Angelo Russell and Julius Randle and how they're not getting that much playing time with the Los Angeles Lakers. So, to start things off, Rondo has been looking pretty good so far. Rondo looks like he has gotten back to his old self, or should I say younger self, back in his Celtics days. And it really looks like he's just had like a change of mindset. It looks like he's playing harder. He's doing all of the little things that he used to do, like those hustle plays, all that kind of stuff. He even dunked on Carmelo, which I was like, what? I didn't even know he had that in his game. Like, he just all of a sudden pulled that out of nowhere. And he's been finding guys open for the Kings, and he's been getting guys into good positions for a shot, racking up the assists. He's gotten a couple triple-doubles already this season, and he's just looking all around improved. He's even shooting about 37-38% from the three-point, from beyond the three-point line this season, which, I mean, if you haven't watched Rondo for his career, that is very surprising. Because Rondo is quite the bad shooter. I mean, obviously the Kings will love that, because when you first sign Rondo, you're not signing Rondo because he's a scoring point guard. You're signing Rondo because he can find the open guys. He can pass people open. He plays decent defense, and he can be a leader on the court. But everyone knows he's not that great of a shooter. So now with this added value, it's been something that the Kings didn't expect and will gladly welcome. Especially if he can keep that up. That will be a huge bonus for the Kings for making that signing. And the funny thing about all of this is everyone's like, oh, with Rondo playing well, with DeMarcus Cousins, the Kings look like an actual team. They look like they have some real promise to them. But the thing is, compared to last season, when they still had Malone as the coach, they were about, I think it was like about 10-11, 10-12 at this point in the season last year. Whereas right now, they're like 9-12, I think. So, while, yes, they have been looking good recently, their record still isn't showing that kind of resemblance of like, oh, a promising team that could make the playoffs, that could make some noise. They look okay right now. They look decent. But they still don't look like a top-tier team. They don't even look like a second-tier team. They kind of look like a very barely mid-level team. Very barely. And the thing is, so, okay, you have a point guard in Rajon Rondo who's playing well. You have a superstar center in DeMarcus Cousins. But the thing is, the supporting cast really isn't that great to make this team take another step. You know what I mean? Like, so their next best player would probably be Rudy Gay after that. And no knock on Rudy Gay. He's a solid player. But he's not really the person to take your team to the next level. Out of the teams Rudy Gay has been on, they haven't really done much with it. And then as soon as he was traded away, example, Toronto Raptors, they've gotten better. Since Rudy Gay left Toronto, they have had a pretty big winning record. I saw it sometime a while ago. It was around the ballpark. I'm not saying this is the exact figure. It was around the ballpark of like 120 and 50. So it worked out for the Raptors. The Kings, on the other hand, they haven't really been doing anything. They haven't made the playoffs. So while I do agree, and it's fun to see Rajon Rondo getting back to a higher level of play like he used to be at, it's awesome. I love seeing Rondo play when he's on his A game because he's a fun guy to watch with all of the crazy passes he can whip out, with all of the fakes and the head fakes and the pass fakes. He's a really fun player to watch when he's on top of his game. But everyone needs to chill a little bit in saying that the Kings look like a real team, a potential contender, because they're not there yet. It's that simple. They're not there yet. And they still need a lot more pieces to be a contender. But they still need at least 1 to 2 more pieces to be even like in playoff contention, especially in the West. Now, if it was in the East, it'd be a little bit of a different story, even though, I mean, the East is playing better this season than last season. But it would still be a little different of a story because there is still a lot of leeway in the bottom part of the East, whereas in the West, the whole division is very good, from the 1 seed down to the 8 seed, and then even 2 seeds below that. So it's going to be tough, especially in the West, and there's still a couple pieces out. So it's just that's what it is. That's what it is. So the Spurs, the reason I want to talk about them is because, they're having a really good season so far. And there's a few guys on there that, no one's really talking about. You have Tony Parker, who has stepped it back up since last season. Tony Parker looked like a shell of himself last season, and a lot of people were like, oh, wow, is age catching up with Parker as much as it's catching up with Ginobili and Duncan? Is Parker going to retire when they do, even though he's the younger of the three? Is he going to, take a step back and have to be put on the bench? What's happening? Well, Tony Parker has come back this season and has stepped his game back up. And the thing is, nobody's really noticing that. Even though he has his percentages back up, his scoring has improved back to, what you would expect. And just his overall play is right on par for what you would expect out of Tony Parker. Whereas last season, it was kind of like, okay, Parker had a good game tonight, but the last 6 or 7 were all below average. This season, he's looked good. I'm not saying superstar level good or anything like that, but he's looked solid, and you're gonna need that out of your starting point guard, obviously. And another person, Kawhi Leonard, who should very seriously be in the MVP race because he's been doing it all on defense like we know he does. He's been a pretty big force for them on offense too. He is leading the league. I was on, when you're watching League Pass and they show those stats in the middle of the screen when it's on commercial. Well, they showed the league leaders in 3-point percentage, and number 1 is Kawhi Leonard. He's shooting 50% from 3, and I wasn't able to check out the stats of how many he's attempted or anything like that, but he's making these shots. That's the big thing here, is that earlier on in his career, you didn't really see him take that many threes or make that many threes. He was more of like a slashing kind of guy, but now he's been able to shoot it from all around. He's been showing his mid-range game. He's still taking it to the hoop. He's making three-pointers, as well as still being that humongous defensive force that we've all known him to become after the Finals MVP and Defensive Player of the Year and all of that. So, with those two, combined with the team style of ball the Spurs play, and the fact that LaMarcus Aldridge kind of like took a hit on his like superstar like mentality kind of thing, the Spurs have all benefited. If you look at Aldridge's stats, he's down from like, he's normally averaging around like 20 and 9, but he's down to like 15 and 8. And it's not because he's not playing well. It's because of the team style of ball that the Spurs play. But when you're winning like this, guys aren't going to complain. It's just not going to happen. When you can play this style of ball and you can still go out, win games, even if you're not throwing up 30 points a game, 20 points a game, guys won't be that upset by it. They'll be like, oh, I didn't get 20 and whatever, but we still got the win. And we're still looking good going forward, and we're still looking good for the playoffs. You're not going to get upset about it because you're winning. It's not like you're on the Sixers or the Nets and you're usually a big scorer and your team is trying to play a team style of ball, but they're really bad at it and they keep losing, and then you would get upset, yes, because you're losing, and you think that, oh, if I had the ball more, I'd be scoring and we'd be winning. But no, in this case, when you take a step back and you're less selfish, like Tim Duncan, who has given up paychecks and given up a lot of different opportunities to stay with this team and play this team style of ball, you are perfectly fine with it as long as you're winning. That's really what it comes down to. And this Spurs team is playing very well, and I wouldn't be surprised if they meet the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs if they beat them in the 7-game series. I wouldn't be surprised. The two teams that really scare, that like if I was the Golden State Warriors that would scare me, would be San Antonio and Oklahoma City. That's about it. They know how to take care of Cleveland, even if they didn't have Kyrie or Love at the time. They still have an understanding of what they have to do against Cleveland. But they didn't have to face OKC or San Antonio last season. Now, I'm not saying like they got lucky like everyone else was. I'm just saying they didn't have to go through them. And if they do this year, it's going to be a problem because also San Antonio is improved with Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard getting better, and OKC's healthy with both Rant and Westbrook. So it would be interesting. And real quick, I just want to touch on this whole Lakers thing. I know BJ Boyer of the Basketball Society, who runs the Lakers Lair podcast, probably would know more about this. So definitely hit him up on Twitter at WCBoyer24 and ask him all sorts of questions if you have more questions about this whole Lakers situation. But Russell and Randle were like moved to the bench, and they still aren't playing late minutes, which I think is seriously stupid. Now, I understand that the Lakers might not want to tank as much as like the Sixers and stuff, so they don't really want to give the younger guys that many minutes, and they still want to give the veterans some minutes. But look, if you keep Byron as a coach, you're committed to tanking. That's what's happening. Now, if you fired him and then you let other guys like get some minutes and stuff, or if you got another coach who could coach better, coach the veterans better, and you started winning a couple of games, okay, then I'm convinced you're not tanking. But as long as you have Byron, and as long as you're like not giving these guys minutes, you're in this weird limbo of tanking, but kind of trying even though you really suck? It makes no sense. And especially with these two who are supposed to be the future of this franchise. They're supposed to be future faces of this team along with Jordan Clarkson, yet you don't want to give them that many minutes. Doesn't make any sense at all. Stupid. That's all I got. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Fisch's Friday Rant. I am, again, Alex Fishbein. This was brought to you by Basketball Society. Make sure you check out the website, www.basketball-society.com. Check out the Twitter, @bballsociety_. And make sure you check us out on iTunes and SoundCloud under The Basketball Society. We have at least one podcast every week. I normally have two, this and the Atlantic Files. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.